As our centennial celebration approaches, the City of Temple Terrace is considering adopting a historic preservation ordinance to protect and preserve the historic buildings in the city. While this ordinance would be voluntary for property owners, it would encourage protection of our historic buildings for future generations to enjoy. In the 1920s, Temple Terrace had an estimated 80 Mediterranean Revival buildings. Today, only around 50 remain. This represents a loss of almost 40%. When buildings are torn down, we lose a part of our Temple Terrace history. The two most notable buildings that were demolished were Club Morocco in 2017 and the Terrace Apartments in 2007. Club Morocco was a Mediterranean revival with Moorish details designed by Franklin O. Adams and completed in 1925. Club Morocco was Temple Terrace Country Club's entertainment center, once the most luxurious nightclub on the west coast of Florida, and numerous swimming and diving competitions were held in its Olympic-sized swimming pool. In the 1940s, it served as the home for city council meetings.
Nestled between the original clubhouse and Club Morocco was the Terrace Apartments, sometimes called the Fleming Apartments. It was a 3-story building flanked by 2-story wings on the north and south side. While it did not have the distinct Mediterranean Revival style, it was the largest building in the development.
According to City Commission minutes from March 1936, the Commission authorized the City Attorney to proceed with a tax foreclosure of the apartments. Just a few months later in June, it was announced that Florida Fundamental Bible Institute, now known as Florida College, bought Terrace Apartments for only $560. While we cannot change what is past, we can be proactive in ensuring that the historic buildings that remain are preserved. Currently, 2 buildings are in danger: 234 Bullard Parkway and the original Temple Terrace Country Club, now known as Sutton Hall.
234 Bullard is a simple Mediterranean revival built in the 1920s. Along with the C.C. Dixon House, this dwelling marked the old entrance into Temple Terrace. Much of its past remains a mystery, but the home did have a few orange trees in the backyard and an oak tree that is now more than a century old. At some point, the property was converted from residential zoning to commercial zoning. Why is this house in danger? The property, again with commercial zoning, and its location within the community redevelopment area, currently is for sale. A developer had a pending contract on this property and pulled a demolition permit, which was slated for December 2021. Ultimately, the sale fell through and the building and tree were saved, for now. But the only thing that stands in the way of the next developer demolishing this property is a $250 permit fee. The home also is experiencing demolition by neglect, meaning that the owners do no maintenance or do any upkeep of the property. This is slowly deteriorating the property. The same goes for Sutton Hall, which has extensive termite damage, and so far, no attempt has been made to make repairs. This building is the original country club and is the foundation of our community. We already have lost so many neighboring buildings. Are we willing to lose this part of our history? So how do we fix this problem? In seeking a solution, we turned to the Secretary of Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties. They have 4 approaches for historic buildings: preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. Temple Terrace has examples of all 4 of these approaches. 406 Mission Hills is an example of a well-preserved Mediterranean revival house. So much so that in the 1988 Survey of Historic Structures, it was eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. When the current owners needed an additional building for a carport, they took the time to match the stucco technique used on the original structure. Was this the easier or cheaper option? Probably not, but the city is grateful to these owners and the owners of other historic properties that have chosen to maintain these buildings.
An example of rehabilitation can be seen in the C.C. Dixon House, one of the original 7 houses in Temple Terrace. This home was stripped down to its frame in 2011 and rebuilt on the original footprint and true to the original style. The C.C. Dixon House now operates as Bullock Law Group.
So what would be the benefit of adopting a historic preservation ordinance? First, Temple Terrace would be eligible to apply to become a certified local government, a free program through the state of Florida. This program offers a link between federal, state, and local governments to assist in identifying, evaluating, and protecting historic properties. This would give Temple Terrace access to more grant money for surveying historic properties, planning, and nominating historic properties to the National Register. Temple Terrace is one of the only, if not the only, 1920s Florida boom-era cities that is not part of Florida's Certified Local Government Program. Property owners could also take advantage of tax credits for renovations that comply with the Secretary of Interior's standards.
Historic preservation is important to preserve our city's heritage, character, and sense of place for future generations. Our nation's history has many facets, and historic preservation helps tell these stories. Temple Terrace needs the historic representation it deserves.